Hakoras HaTov. Ma heina Hakoras HaTov. What is gratitude and thankfulness? Hakoras HaTov literally means you recognize somebody did good for you, and Hodah is gratitude. Ayehu Mekoram B'nefesh. Where?
How are those two different?
What? Hakoras HaTov just is recognizing the good, but not saying anything. Not saying explicitly. I am a carbon nefesh. What is the source? So me'ayin tavo kfiyas tova, and where does ingratitude come from? Literally, kfiyas tova means rejecting the good, asher rob bnei adam yikash leba, which most people stumble in. So here too, you can recognize somebody who gives and somebody who takes. Hanosein yargish b'vavo shelo yachbotz naschinam. A giver feels in his heart he doesn't want to get something for nothing. Kishiva so raklitain. His ambition is only to give. Not to draw to himself things which are outside of him. A love that when something comes to him from his friend, he naturally wants to pay for it. If you can't do this, so then he'll feel an obligation. That's what we call the best translation for Hodah is not to give thanks, really, it's acknowledgement, right? Hakoras HaTov is to recognize good. Hodah means to acknowledge the good. Like it comes from some same source as vidui, right? Vidui means to admit, right? And Hodah means to admit that something good was done to you.
But the acknowledgement has to be like verbal or?
No, but it has to be expressed somehow. Otherwise, it's not an acknowledgement.
Right.
No tell, somebody who takes Yishov Tadir, he'll constantly be the ambition to draw himself everything he can. Whether it's by theft, or by cheating, or by a gift, whichever way works. And in his heart he thinks everything belongs to him. Everything's for him. Therefore something good comes to him, which is given to him by kindness of his friend. He doesn't feel a need to repay that. There's somebody who's an ingrate. So what about if you see somebody who's a taker who does give gracious thanks or something? So he says, sometimes even very, very graciously. Don't believe him and don't believe his thankfulness. It's just superficial. It's saying it with his lips, flattering the other person. But in his heart he doesn't have any real gratitude. Because they want to get more favors and more gifts. I'll put on the mask, the clothing of somebody who's makir tov who recognizes the good. The nimtza shagam odasa netilahi. So it comes out that his thanking is also giving. His thanking is also taking. Kikachi kavanasa. That's its intent. Close to the over, John brings this Hakoras Tova he toladas koach hanasina. Hakoras Tova is derived from the koach of nasina of giving. Ukfiyas Tova and being the ingratitude he toladas koach hanasina is derived from taking. So this brings me to the other topic which I wanted to speak about, which is tonight is Yom Ha'Atzma'ut, the Israeli Independence Day. And one of the things that the tragedies of the chinuch today in the Torah world, I'm going to think about two tragedies. First tragedy is that people, the B'nai Torah, are taught that kumtamir, things are coming to me. I deserve things. In other words, if somebody supports me learning Torah, it's their zchus that they're supporting me learning Torah, right? I don't have to be makir tov to them. If anything, they should be makir tov to me because I have I'm doing them the favor of accepting their money in order to learn Torah. And this is particularly true in Eretz Yisrael. Because in Eretz Yisrael, the government spends a tremendous amount of money on yeshivas and on the Talmud Torah. And the B'nai Torah are taught that they have no need to be makir tov to the government. There's no need to be makir tov of anything. On the contrary, you're supposed to detest the government and your fellow residents in the state of Israel because they are whatever reason. And therefore, it will come to a very, very bad situation, which is intrinsically, people become B'nai Torah, become notling. They become takers, not givers. Because somebody has convinced them that they're giving so much by learning, by sitting and learning, that the people should be makir tov to them. And then nobody should have the attitude of, I deserve anything. Because then you set yourself up to never appreciate anything. At the same time, you're taking things. That's a big problem. And it's something which is across the board an issue. And I'm not sure how we resolve it, because that's part of the intrinsic propaganda, which was used in order to convince people to give money, and in order to convince people that they should sit and learn, is this idea of the giver of the money has a schus that he's giving it to the person who's learning Torah.
And then also a reason why, again, not to get into a whole debate about this, but like a lot of people like Hasidim feel that Israel is not really ours right now because it wasn't given to us by Hashem, versus we fought for it and took it over from wherever we took it from. But there's like a tzad that says like when Mashiach comes, that's when Eretz Yisrael is going to be ours because it was given to us from Hashem, not versus we just went in there and took it.
I'll come to that in a second. Not a second, a few minutes. The other issue involved, the tragedy in chinuch is that in most yeshivish moistus, nobody ever talks about Yom Ha'Atzma'ut, about the Israel Independence Day, or about the proper attitude to the state of Israel. And this takes place again across the board in many, many different institutions, many different types. And this is a tragedy because then people don't have a proper perspective. The reason why it's not talked about, I think, is complicated. I don't know it's only one reason. I think part of it is that since people see Satmar and Brisk as being very frum, so therefore let's emulate Satmar and Brisk. Or part of it is people don't know how to articulate a complex position which has nuance, and therefore they rather avoid the entire topic, right? Instead of have to try and figure out exactly what we like and what we don't like, and therefore best avoid the topic. And in general, we try to stay away in yeshivas from any hashkafa other than the learning Torah and more learning Torah. And there is something fascinating. Brisker Rav is supposed to have said that people should not learn Navi, because people learn Navi, they're going to get the wrong ideas. And because you see from Navi all sorts of ideas which don't conform with what you are being taught in yeshiva, right? So therefore, you're going to get the wrong idea in many different possible ways. So there's interesting. I don't know if it's true that Brisker Rav said that, but that's an interesting point. So now there is. Let's get back to this question of Yad Hashem. So I think that it's very basic to Judaism to see Yad Hashem and Hashgacha Pratis, and certainly Hashgacha Klalis. If you see something being successful in this world, you see something flourishing, so then, unless the people involved are being very, very cruel, ben adam chavero, or being very, very, very porous in avodah zarah, giluras, and shvichus damim, we assume that Hashem views this thing positively, especially if it generates lots of Torah mitzvos. Right, because the fact that Eretz Yisrael is what it is today means there's an unprecedented amount of Torah mitzvahs taking place there, which was unprecedented at least in the last 2,000 years, perhaps even longer. So it's very hard for me to assume that Hashem gives people a nisayon that they should think that not see something which seems so positive as positive, but they should see it as negative. It's a very difficult nisayon, and I don't think Hashem gives those nisyonos. It's interesting because I have a similar idea about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, there are dinosaur bones, right? And there are many of them. So there's some people who say, but there were no dinosaurs. The Bavitch Rebbe says dinosaur bones were planted in the Bria, right? That the people, why? They had to be planted there as bones. Because since they're fossil fuels, so they have to be fossils. But and because the Maisa Brachus was made in a way that everything looked like a mature world. And therefore, if they're fossil fuels, and would have to be fossils to produce fossil fuels, so therefore the fossils are also built into the system. To me, that's too big a nisayon to expect somebody to actually check their brain at the door and say, you know what, even though I see the dinosaur bones, there were no dinosaurs. There are many other ways to reconcile the existence of dinosaurs with the age of the universe and so on and so forth. But the assumption that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would give such a big nisayon and say, you know what, even though you see dinosaur bones, don't believe them. It's very, very difficult to accept that from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Obviously, it says, "Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba b'tirunya briyosav." Hashem doesn't come with tough and challenging, overly challenging tests for his creatures.
It's only difficult if you actually think about it. If someone doesn't want to think, then it's very easy.
Yes, that's why we promote not thinking, because then the life is very easy. Yes. So there's the entire there's a huge machlokes out there, of course, whether to say Halal Yom Ha'Atzma'ut, not to say Halal Yom Ha'Atzma'ut, to say Halal with a bracha, without a bracha, say Tachnun, not say Tachnun, and it really is secondary. Whether you say Halal or Tachnun or Yom Ha'Atzma'ut has become a symbol. It does in and of itself. It's a relatively insignificant thing. I'm not saying completely insignificant, but it's a relatively insignificant thing. But it's become a symbol of and therefore bloated beyond proportion. But what's really an issue is Hakoras HaTov. Hakoras HaTov is in two ways. Hakoras HaTov, first of all, has to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? If Hashem gives you opportunity, if anybody in this room been to Israel, right? Everybody's seen how amazing Israel is. So therefore, we have Hakoras HaTov HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this place. Especially, that one of the major reasons why the state of Israel exists is that in case things go bad anywhere in the world, the Jews have a place to go. That's very important. So therefore, there should be Hakoras HaTov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this place, this phenomenal place, which seems to be pretty successful. Then
they thought the same way, back in the day that Germany was that place. Of like, okay, we can go there, they were doing well there, and then we got kicked out.
The Orthodox didn't.
Yeah. So I'm saying, like, everywhere we are,
we should be no, and that's true.
Meaning, like right now, here.
And you're supposed to be market.
A dime, it can all turn around.
You're right, but Yirmiyahu Hanavi, when he says that when they went, the Kaisel went into Golos, he tells them, wherever you live, make sure to pursue the good of the society and country in which you live.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So therefore, yes, they should have been Michtav to Germany until they shouldn't be Michtav anymore. Right. So till 1933, Jews who lived in Germany were very loyal and very grateful to Germany, even though there was significant anti-Semitism. As Achas Kam in America, we should be very grateful and loyal, even though there's a little bit of anti-Semitism. But besides that, we should really be Michtav more to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we have this. We're able to live in America, and we should mark it to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu that there is a state of Israel, which is a very important phenomenon for Jews all over the world, both for the Jews who live there and for the Jews who might have to live there someday. That's one aspect. There's another aspect, which is it says in Pirkei Avos, Perek Gimel, says you should be Kohanim says should be mispal b'shloma shel malchus. Shemoli imora shel malchus isha tzorei chaim below. If not for the fear of the malchus, people would swallow each other alive. So Rabbi China's kind of Kohanim was alive during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. The government he's speaking about is the Roman government. And Roman government, they were not so nice to us. But he says, nevertheless, you have to be mispala b'shlema shemachus. Right? Why? Because they serve an important role. They if not for them, there would be no law and order. There'd be chaos. So that's why, I don't know if they actually said it. I assume that they did, but you find in the old Sidurim, the Tefillah Shlom HaMedina is for the Tsar and the Tsarina, right? They daven for the health of the biggest anti-Semite, some of the biggest anti-Semites in the world, because without this, there's no law and order. So we have to Makir Tov to the people who run a government, even if all the government provides us with is some degree of protection and law and order. Even if that's everything, all it is, you have to daven for their peace, and you should be Makir Tov to them for that. So I kind of like, I think it's Rav, who said that he had a very difficult wife. And so his son said, why you put up with her? Just divorce her. So he said, it's enough that they raise our children and save us from sinning. So even though, things might be very, very negative, for the positive, you have to be Makir Tov, right? You have to recognize that this is something which is good. So to alachas kama v'kama, if things are very good, then a person has to be Makir Tov to the people who make that happen. And that's true even if they're not doing it themselves, lishma. Because otherwise you're a no-tell. If even they're not doing lishma, if you're not thankful to them, then you're just taking. And you become a taker as opposed to a giver. Hakoras HaTov is mostly necessary in order to avoid becoming a no-tell. Because if I have nothing else to reciprocate, when you give me something, I reciprocate with Hakoras HaTov. That's how I avoid just being a taker, because I give back. And that's why it's an insincere Makir Tov. That's something which is also a form of Natila, because you're insincere. You don't mean it. You're just doing it in order to benefit yourself further down the line. So again, Hakoras HaTov is independent of whether they do it for the right reasons or not. Hakoras HaTov means that I make sure whenever I get something, because of my mitos, to be Makir Tov to the other people. So that's, and thank them. So therefore we have two levels of Hakoras HaTov and Hodah, which should be operative in our relationship with the state of Israel. Forgetting about Hallel. The Hallel is the way it prays being Makir Tov to Kodesh Baruch Hu, but you can be Makir Tov just by a lot of Kavanah and Modim. Right? Because Modim is all about Hakoras HaTov to Kodesh Baruch Hu. So the Hakoras HaTov is that to Hashem, for having given us a positive phenomenon, like the state of Israel. The Hakoras HaTov is to the people who run the state of Israel, make it run, because they are providing us with many, many things, which, including the state itself, which we need in order to function in Eretz Yisrael and even in Chutz La'aretz. And getting back to what you asked me before. So the idea of Mashiach being the one who brings us the state, Mashiach also has to fight for it. Mashiach, as Rambam says, that the Mashiach has to wage wars in order to bring Am Yisrael back to Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, but that's when we deserve it.
No, not necessarily.
No.
Rambam doesn't say anything about deserving it. Rambam just says, Rambam says, anybody who wants to be Mashiach. Do you want to be Mashiach?
No.
But it's real.
Too much responsibility, and I'm not allowed.
It's real easy.
And I become a rabbi.
The Rambam says there are three criteria. He says if you wage the wars of Israel, and you bring back the people who want to move back to Eretz Yisrael, and you build the Beis HaMikdash, then you're Mashiach. If you fail at any of those things, if you fail, so then you're you were a fine king of the Jews, but you weren't Mashiach.
So according to that, could a Christian do it?
What? So he says, "Mi Beis Yehuda." He says in the house of Yehuda.
Because that's according to the Christians.
Evie's trying real hard.
They're the biggest supporters for what's that organization that
Yeah, because
that sends everybody to Eretz Yisrael.
Birthright?
They're the biggest supporters because they believe that their Yasha is not going to come until all
Right.
Jews are in Eretz Yisrael.
Right, that's
so
true.
they are the biggest supporters
Yes.
of
Yeah.
these organizations because they want it.
But it's the evangelical Christians.
They're the biggest supporters of birthright.
They
But
are.
they definitely have the
No, they're big. They're probably the biggest from what I heard.
Yeah, so they definitely have an agenda. That's true. So there definitely is an agenda. You're absolutely right.
100% agenda.
Yes.
It's not because they love us.
No.
opposite.
So you have the Makar to the church?
What?
You have the Makar to the church?
If you go on birthright, you go to
To-
You have the Makar to the church for being pro-Israel and for advocating politically pro-Israel things?
Yes, we do.
even though it's for the wrong agenda.
Yeah, even though it's the wrong agenda, because they're helping us out.
So you believe that we should all.
Now, but it doesn't mean that you have to give. If you don't have to give them money,
Right.
you appreciate the fact that they're doing
Pray
this.
there.
Right, don't pray there. Right.
But I'm saying, do you believe that we should all ultimately
Different
pick up and make
practices,
Aliyah and go to Israel?
No, because the society there is too polarized.
So if that's the case, then why should we be Marker Tov for them who are sending us there? So if that's not what we should be doing.
Some people, because it keeps up, the people are being sent by birthright. Otherwise, we definitely assimilate. That's one of the big miles of having Eretz Yisrael is to the extent that something stops assimilation. One of the major things that stops complete assimilation is identity with the state of Israel, identifying the state of Israel. That's really what birthright accomplishes much more than people moving there, is that people fall in love with Israel and they feel that, this is something in which they can take pride.
So Trump or Biden?
Nothing to do with this. Another thing which I wanted to mention is that another problem which doesn't directly relate to this is the problem of Chilul Hashem. And if people seem selfish and taking things all the time, then not only is it bad midah, but it's also Chilul Hashem. It also makes us look like we are not the refined and good people which we would like to be and which we would like to represent. So it is important, very, very important, not to make a Chilul Hashem. And I don't think people realize that by having negative attitudes, one also makes a Chilul Hashem. It's not just if you do something wrong. It's having negative attitudes. Having bad attitudes is something which comes across. So the having a positive attitude and trying to explain to people or understand myself to Yimakir Tov, to have gratitude to Hashem and to other people, that's something which, besides the Nesina and Natila aspect that you're supposed to be given, not a taker, also has to do with Kiddush Hashem. And Kiddush Hashem is the most, obviously we know, the most important thing which we have. Finally, to sum up, or not to sum up, to finish up, there is, this is a basic machlekes which I had with a colleague of mine many years ago, and he probably still disagrees with me. In general, the question is how to look at history. To look at history and say, from historical patterns, we can determine Yad Hashem and what Ratzon Hashem is, or you look at historical patterns and we can't determine Ratzon Hashem. Ratzon Hashem has to be independent of history. And I think that those people, like the Satmar and the other anti-Zionists, believe that you can't perceive Yad Hashem through history. It's not possible, right? History is totally random, relatively speaking, and that's how they can square away Eretz Yisrael being so successful and being a Maisa Sultan at the same time.
How does that jive with Hashgacha Pratis?
What?
How does that jive with Hashgacha Pratis?
It doesn't, right? It's contradiction. But somehow people are comfortable with contradictions when they're
Checking the
convenient.
brain at the door works.
Yeah. So my contention was that no, you can see.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying before. That meaning. Again, not that I believe or don't believe, because I would love to go to Eretz Yisrael if it made sense financially and everything like that. I would be there in a heartbeat. But like, Eretz Yisrael is not what Eretz Yisrael is supposed to be in the times of the Geula. Like everybody thinks like
It's not gonna be.
It's a place to be. It's a place to be. Let's go. Everybody
It's not going to be that way at the time of the Gula
I'm
either.
saying they look down. As a matter of like the people who live next to Shaw look down at us like you're living in Gullus.
Oh, that's a separate thing.
We
Yes.
all live in Gullus, fool.
Right.
Like
Yeah, no, that's a separate thing. That
but
people who live in Eretz will have flaws also. Right. So that's what.
whenever there's like a catastrophe,
Right. People look down their noses at other people for no good reason or have a flaw in their character. This is true. But yes, people in Eretz Yisrael have a certain annoying, what's the word? Superiority complex. Yeah. Yes.
So Israeli
Yeah.
No, we always say sorry.
Yeah. Canadians have an inferiority complex. Yeah.
In regards to Kiddush Hashem and Chil Hashem, is this?
Let me just finish the thought 24. So, I can't explain the Holocaust, but I can.
Thank you for saying that.
Right. Can't explain the Holocaust, but if I see that the Holocaust led to the creation of the State of Israel, and there's a direct link between the two, so there's clearly one of the purposes of the Holocaust was for there to be a State of Israel, right? No, it has to be. It can't be any other way. Because there are nisim and niflos in 1948.
Jews have to die for the
No, I didn't say that. It's not a complete explanation. It's not a complete explanation, and there is no one explanation which will cover 6 million Jews. But there's a partial understanding of the course of history. Somehow there had to be this catastrophe for several reasons, and that catastrophe also led to the State of Israel.
I think that one falls under the Tiku category.
I don't think so.
No?
No, I think there are too many miracles. So I don't think it's a taken. But what are you going to say?
No, in regards to Chil Hashem and Kiddush Hashem,
Yeah.
is that only in reference to a Jew to a Jew? Because that's
No. The main mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem and Chil Hashem in the strictest sense of the word is to another Jew. But it applies to everybody, Goyim as well, because it says, "V'ro ki Shem Hashem nikra alecha." Right? We're there for people to see that we have Shem Hashem. That's talking about the Goyim. Right? So therefore, the whole concept of, it's the second paragraph in Elena, which is the mission statement of the Jewish people, is the only way they're going to recognize that is if Am Yisrael represents it. So therefore, although the strictly narrow mitzvah in the Torah, right, Kiddush Hashem is in front of 10 Jews, Chil Hashem in front of 10 Jews, but the expanded Kiddush Hashem is in front of everybody in the world. Okay, we'll stop here for tonight. Shkoyach.
Also,
The problem is that we have a Mishnah that says B'shvili Nivra Olam.
right.
And people take that the wrong way. B'shvili Nivra Olam really means it would have been worthwhile creating the world just for me. Because I have a mission, I'm important in life. But people take that to mean the world's created for me.
We spoke about that way before. Like each person has a part of the master machine, and so b'shvili nirolam. If you believe that I'm the only important one here, and then everybody else can go fly a kite, I'm just a little.
You're breaking the machine, yeah.
Little tiny screw. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Right.
That there's no function for me if I'm not within everything else.
Yeah.
Then I become something.
Right.
The Simcha Ponim quote, right? You're supposed to have both things in your pocket. B'shvili nivra olam, afer le'efer.
Right. Right. Yes. Right. You have to have, right. Obviously, there's a saying that people have that. Why is he so nasty to me? I never did him a favor. Right, which means that because there's the tendency of a no-tell is to say that I can't be makir tov because then I'm subservient to that person, and in a way they're better than me. So therefore, the no-tell refuses to be makir tov. They're not even, perhaps they're not even conscious of that. But there is such a, you do somebody a tova very often. They don't want to be grateful, and therefore they overcompensate by being nasty to you. That's one of the human tendencies which Odessa is coming to oppose.
Is there a danger in excessive Hakoras HaTov in the sense of then at some point I'm going to feel like I'm just a taker?
No. Hakoras HaTov prevents that. Hakoras HaTov is the antidote to being a taker. If I recognize that people give me and I acknowledge them, then I feel, you know what, I probably have responsibility as a result of all these favors people are doing me to reciprocate in some way, shape, or form.
Is it?
Sometimes all I can do is Hakoras HaTov. That's all I can do, like Hashem.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I have nothing else to do. But it'll get me to thinking, what can I do for the other person?
Sometimes it can backfire and people don't want to do anything for you because you're too thankful. And then it gets annoying. It's like, okay, you said thank you 100 times.
Oh, I get it.
Yes, it's not. Hakoras HaTov doesn't mean you're supposed to be cloying.
Right.
Yeah, that's counterproductive. Yeah. Okay, shkoyach.